And greetings. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace with Aaron McIntyre. Todd Erzin on the road, but with us for the Deace Group, as is Blaze editor Rob Eno as well. He'll be here with us in just a few minutes. We are brought to you by our friends over at Relief Factor. If you've been struggling for too long with too much chronic pain, it's because you've probably got too much inflammation in your system, and that's where Relief Factor comes in. It is the drug-free supplement created by physicians, though, who can prescribe drugs, whose intent is to go after what's the cause likely of your chronic pain, not just mask it with painkillers, but try to get rid of it and get rid of that inflammation in your joints. And it may not work, but over the years, over 1 million people have tried the 3-week quick start I'm about to introduce to you. 70% of them saw such great results, they stuck with the product long term, and they saw those results in 3 weeks or less. So why don't you see if you don't see a difference in your pain in 3 weeks or less by going to relieffactor.com, especially when it costs you just $20. Just $20 to take that bet. That's a good value bet for $20. 70% odds that your quality of life will improve. Relieffactor.com is where you want to go. Get the 3-week quick start at relieffactor.com. And then, if you want to go deeper with us here at The Blaze, we have a new subscription tier. It's called Blaze Unlimited, and it includes our outstanding new periodical, our quarterly magazine, Frontier, for people who actually want to hold a magazine in their hands yet again. So much outstanding content in each and every one of these issues that we've produced thus far. And the first 50 subscribers today who use the code BLAZE50, you're going to get $40 off. $40 off a Blaze Unlimited subscription, which gets you even more early access, even more exclusivity, even more VIP treatment, even more members-only content. BlazeUnlimited.com/Deace is where you want to go. Use the code BLAZE50 to get $40 off. That's BlazeUnlimited.com/Deace. Using the code BLAZE50 to get $40 off your Blaze Unlimited subscription. All right, next hour, it'll be your turn on a Feedback Friday, but let's kick this thing off on Friday, as we always do, with the Deace Group. Your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it always does, with issue 1. Bleep, Lord Nefarious says.
That's what the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
We are in a basketball game right now, if you'll excuse the metaphor, where the refs have left the arena. And the other side is just clobbering the shit out of us, just punching us in the face, kicking us in the nuts. And we're kind of throwing our hands up and we're asking the crowd, the people of America, hey, do you see what's going on here? This is unfair. This isn't the rules that we agreed to play by. Well, who cares about the rules right now? Punch back, kick back, dunk over their heads, and win some power.
A lot of folks on the Republican side, your Republican colleagues, say that they are very scared to walk outside in D.C., that they think this is completely the right thing to do. Senator, are you scared walking around Washington, D.C. these days?
I walk around all the time. I wake up early in the morning sometimes and take a nice walk as the sun is rising around some of the Capitol and the other monuments and things, and I feel perfectly safe. They're full of it.
A relatively small crime problem is being used for specific authoritarian purposes that we know and understand. I'm not afraid of losing my wallet so much as I'm afraid that my children's freedom to breathe will be stolen in a world where climate change policy is non-existent.
No, Joe, I'm a black woman in America. I do not always think that more police make streets safer.
6 individuals were charged with aggravated assault, which is a felony. The white guy incited or urged 6 other people to commit a felony.
I do believe that Donald Trump is intimidated. I think you're begging.
No interruption.
So let me just answer that. I do appreciate you begging. So I would just say it like this, that the president has always been intimidated by the intellectual prowess of black men. And so, of course, he would speak in those petite and puerile terms.
And our values are exactly where they ought to be. So it's time to stop apologizing when we're not wrong.
What would be some of your top 2-3 priorities for the city?
So that's a very good question. So the first I would say would be a hostile federal government with not only Donald Trump in office, but he has essentially a trifecta, both chambers of Congress and the Supreme Court. And a lot of our neighbors, especially our undocumented residents, are very concerned.
Well, Tom Homan, let me tell you, all over the country, we will continue to stand up for our rights, and we will continue to call out the terrorist organization that is ICE.
Would you say Hamas has some culpability in people starving?
No.
Why? When they spent so much money building tunnels and everything under the...
How is your office responding to the pauses in gender affirming care here in California?
Well, that is something that I'm working for at the national level, and we have, how can I say, are hoping that we can have gender affirming care for our trans kids. And that it's a sad thing for us. I'm not totally. I don't know what effect we can have nationally with what we have going on in the White House and in the Congress. It's really very sad. If you were there, outside our door, we have a trans flag.
First question. Rob is the guest. You get the first crack at it. What was the most vile of the vile that you were just forced to witness, brother, and why?
I was going to go with the heat miser lookalike dude from MSNBC until I heard Nancy Pelosi's strong, was it a close? Was it not a close? Was it a dementia moment?
Yes.
That was just, yes, all of the things, right? Yeah,
yes.
That was just insane. It is her normal insane self. She's like, I need to check boxes. I need to say things so that I can get reelected in California. What is it that I'm supposed to say again? Oh, yes, trans. I mean, she cannot be denied communion fast enough, I think. It's just, she's absolutely insane. But to go back to the white-haired heat miser dude from MSNBC, your kids aren't going to be able to breathe because it gets half a degree centigrade warmer. I don't, these people are beyond, you can't even make fun of them because it's so sad that they are caricatures of themselves. I mean, you want to make fun of them, but you can't even really make fun of them because it's just, you sit there with your jar agape listening to them.
Plus, they have clearly demonstrated, Rob, that if empowered to do so, they will take every platform, every institution, everything that they are empowered over and with in our culture, and weaponize it with their pathologies, with their sociopaths, with their lunacies. So yeah, I know that there's still a great market for chuckle hutting these people and engagement farming the poo out of it online, but it's all fun and games until you lose your way of life. And as much as it's laughable, they're very serious, and they have demonstrated they will act on this to the nth degree with any amount of power that is granted to them by the American people to do so, and including power that they don't even have, if necessary.
Right, and if you try to fight back, they will say that you're the fascist.
Correct. It's Beto sitting there accusing us of doing. I mean, apparently, I just didn't have to do this show the way I've done it for the last 15 years. We were doing these things all along. He's out there saying that we're doing exactly what they are doing. That's also, you also need to recognize another thing. Another hallmark of evil is it will always accuses you of doing what it's doing every single time. Todd, what about you? What stood out?
I was going to go in the direction you went, Steve. I think I'll use the mayor of Chicago complaining about Donald Trump being petite and puerile. What is that? Just the other side of the Jasmine Crockett coin where she gets to go ghetto, he gets to go 18th century old English for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, he is the mayor of a very large American city on the heels of, what's her nuts, that little troll they had before her, and nobody learned any lessons. So while he's going to be my stand-in, it's all ultimately this. Steve, you said it's not going to take that. These people are ridiculous, but it's only going to take a small percentage of young American males or people who just get bored or distracted to not go to the polls, where these people are in power again. So once again, Aaron had, I don't know how many, I lost count of elected officials. This wasn't just our edition of going after the press, fake news or not, or anything like that. This was mostly elected officials, which is, to Steve's point made earlier in the week, there are millions upon millions of people who think just like them, and we are on the razor's edge of having them rule us again.
100%. Aaron.
Don't know how I'm supposed to follow that. Thanks, Todd. Let's go.
It is Friday. That is Todd's day. So that means the rest of us got to, buckle the chin strap a little tighter because Todd's bringing it today.
The woman in Cincinnati. Well, first, a quick note on Nancy Pelosi. That is just 200 proof a boomer lib. Just, you are 300 years old, still seeking elected office. You can barely string a sentence together. The sentences that you can string together are about transing kids. And oh, by the way, I'm not actually serious about implementing any of this because I don't have the power to do so right now. But let me let you know that I have a trans flag over my door. It's just 200 proof boomer lib at this point. Let's go to the woman in Cincinnati who accused the white man of inciting 6 felonies. That is cancer. I'm not going to stop saying this. Racialism is cancer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just cancer. How can you look? I don't care what they said or what was said. We still don't know the details of what led up to the curb stomping of multiple individuals. Maybe there were people running their mouth.
What would be said that would be worthy of a curb stomp at that level, do you think?
Was there a weapon presented? Right. Do we know this?
Was somebody threatened
Can
directly?
the DEI police chief of Cincinnati let us know?
Mm-hmm.
Was there something that warranted that level of near-death experience when it comes to that one woman? I think Holly was her name. This stuff is just cancerous. To look that in the face and to say it's actually the white dude's fault for inciting, please spell out why, how. Give us details. There's never any details because those aren't important. That's not the point.
What did she think was going to happen, Aaron, when she dressed like that? Oh, I'm sorry. Different context. Anyway, finish your point. My bad.
That is the point. This stuff has to be stopped. Stopped dead in its tracks.
All you guys were great. I do think a special hat tip has to be given to Bernie Sanders, though. I mean, just a tip of the hat that Hamas bears no guilt for any starvation that is happening in Gaza. Except for the hostages. They've been starving for 2 damn years. Except for that. But I guess I'm sure the hostages, including the remains of 4 dead Americans, they have yet to return, by the way. I'm sure they've all, guys, been really enjoying their trips to the halal buffet. Rice is probably seasoned just right. Right mix, rosemary and curry for that region of the country. You know, I'm sure they're really enjoying their trips to the halal buffet.
Well,
in between the gang, in between the gang rapes, of course.
To be fair, Steve, why does he have to change when a bunch of the church-going right now is running cover for him, as you say, on a regular basis with their obsession about the Jews? You know, it's good times, really good times, Steve.
By the way, Bernie Sanders, Jewish.
Yeah.
All right,
yes.
So let's just move on. Exit question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the odds, our beloved sister and colleague, Jill Savage, has to be concerned about being sexually harassed by one Lindsey Graham, and 10 being the odds, Lindsey Graham would win the corn dog eating contest at the Iowa State Fair going away. Rank this week's level of total depravity, Rob.
I'm going to go with a 4 this week. It's not it's usually the cultural crazy stuff. This was just idiotic stupidity from liberals. So I'm going to go with 4.
A 4?
Do not mistake.
It could be worse.
Do not mistake idiocy for malevolence.
Indeed. Aaron, I'm going to have to go to you next. Dude just absolutely crapped on your montage. He only gave it a 4.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a, 16 to make up for it.
There you go. Nice.
There we go. We
got to come back to Rob after he incites mob violence on him to see what number he gives it.
Yes.
Just for being white.
Todd, where are you at on this week's montage? You're at a 10. Yeah, I'm at a strong 9.9. But I could be negotiated up for sure. Let's get to issue 2. Arrests, or it never happened.
Two big bombshells dropped this week. I guess they're less bombshells and more formalizations of things we've either had prima facie evidence of or suspected for the better part of the last 10 years. First, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard declassified an email from former DNI James Clapper, who was responding to concerns from former NSA Chief Michael Rogers that he had not seen enough evidence or had not had enough access to evidence to support the claims Russia assisted Trump in the 2016 election. In response to those concerns, Clapper basically said, "Shut up," and really said, quote, "This is our story and we're sticking to it." Then later on in the week, Just the News reported on documents provided by FBI Director Kash Patel, which showed the FBI and DOJ were hot on the trail of prosecutable public corruption charges against Hillary Clinton regarding her activities with the Clinton Foundation, but were told to halt that investigation by the Obama administration. President Trump this week singled out Attorney General Pam Bondi.
I actually told them, I said, you know, they got this phony investigation going on, Russia, totally phony, created by Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, and Hillary Clinton and the whole group of them. And it made it very dangerous for our country because I was unable to really deal with Russia the way we should have been. I'm looking at Pam because I hope something's going to be done about it.
All right. I want to, with the first question, give me a second to clarify this true or false question, to give you guys context. And I typically don't do this because I actually want you guys, when you're on the panel, to apply your own context because it's meant for you guys, for us to figure out the most what you guys think, not what you may think, I think, with the question. But in this case, I do think I need to probably add some context. It is very obvious, because it's every single election, that the state of the economy overall is going to determine the victor, or lack thereof, in the next midterm election in 2026. Are we all agreed on that overall?
To various degrees, yeah.
To various degrees.
Some degree, yeah.
Okay. There are factors, though, that depending on the state of said economy, let's say it's not a .com level boom. Let's say it's not even 2017. And it's not much cheaper to buy a house and to finance a car for a 30-year-old guy who wants to get married or just got married and wants to have kids or just had kids than it is right now. Okay? Some other factors are good, but those micro factors that you are making those major life decisions as one of those young men that just voted for Trump, that put him over the top basically in the popular vote, especially in 24, you're not feeling those yet. Okay? So that's I want to make sure that context is added to this statement, because I do think even our young men are also human. And if the economy is good, they're going to, just like we have for generations, the older guys, we're going to overlook all kinds of sellouts and backstabs because the check clears, right? So I want to make sure I'm noting that as context and for you guys when I ask this question. True or false? If no arrests are made of any of these bad faith actors between now and the midterms, Republicans are going to need some kind of economic boom. .com level boom. Maybe you could, you don't think it maybe is that exorbitant. You want to redefine the question, you're welcome to. But they're going to need some kind of economic boom to avoid losing those young men and thus losing the House and thus losing a good portion of the Trump presidency, because the entire domestic agenda will be bogged down in the House in various impeachments and trials held of Trump cabinet officials and Trump himself in a Democrat Congress for the next 2 years. True or false? Rob, I start with you on that.
Absolutely true. I like to say no perp walks, no peace, right? That's just this is, again, if this is all for nothing and for show, if it's just the same stupidity that the Epstein file release that they use, Liz Wheeler and our friend Chad Prather and those people, the Pam Bondi used them thinking that they could pull one over on the MAGA movement with, fake Epstein files that had already been released. That this is going to go nowhere. And I think that's one of the things that young men are ticked off about, that went nowhere. And they think that this is going to go nowhere. I love all this stuff coming out now. All that this is doing is confirming everything that we knew that we got demonetized for, Steve. This is confirming everything that we know, that Hillary Clinton paid the DNC to hire a law firm, to hire to hire an upper research firm that hired a spy to make up stuff about Trump and Russia that they could then use as the basis for an investigation. We've known this. We knew this because she got fined by the FEC that fines nobody for it. Her and the Democratic Party, the FEC said, yes, this is true. And the media still said, no, that's not what happened. So all we're doing is confirming everything that we already knew. If Pam Bondi does not, or Ed Martin, I think, is the one that's looking at a couple of these people, if they do not get federal grand jury indictments brought, now they'll probably all get brought in, D.C. and they'll all get off. But if they don't get federal grand jury indictments, it's going to be really tough to vote for Republicans for a lot of people. And you are absolutely correct. If, again, no perp walks, no peace.
Todd, what do you think of what Rob just had to say?
Steve, you can help me, and I think thus help the audience. Can you remind us what the current margin is in the House? And secondly,
it's like 3 seats, Rob.
Us, because this is how your memory works. Roughly how that compares to the average margin in any given.
It's the smallest. It's the smallest House majority, I think, in modern history of a party that has total control in Washington D.C. And it's 3 seats, if memory serves. Yeah. Does that add some context?
I think it's effectively
1 seat, isn't it?
Well, you know what? You're right, because there's been a retirement, and
I thought I remembered it was down to
because
1.
it was 3 when Trump got inaugurated.
7?
It's 7 seats.
Okay, so we're
it's
completely
219
wrong.
Currently 219 to 212, but that's effectively 3 seats, right? It
in terms of the swing
margin.
Yes, yeah. If you lose
the 3,
swing,
is a 3 seat.
Yeah, if you lose 3 one way or the other, yeah.
3.5.
And so maybe that's probably what I was thinking, that it's effectively
a
3-seat margin, but it's actually 7. It is the smallest House margin a party with the triumvirate of power in D.C. has had in modern times. That is true.
Yeah, this is why I said what I said in the beginning of the show. In the margins we're talking about, it just doesn't take much. So I would say err on the side of saying yes, agreeing. They will lose the House. But there is a paradox here, and it's built into this entire layout of the show before. The very thing that causes you to be so frustrated that nobody's being arrested because we're led by elected officials that need to be arrested also makes you think, I can't hand it back to those people, which is what you would be doing. And so I think you're probably right. But that's why I'm not absolutely certain, because you are defaulting, as frustrated as you are rightly to say I'm washing my hands of this. You're saying you are giving it back to those criminals that we just highlighted on the show.
All right, Aaron, kind of a nuanced take there by Todd. I thought was very interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I think electoral politics, if this was put in a sales analogy, you're not selling cars, you're leasing them. If you want your electorate to keep leasing your car, and you keep giving them objections to doing that. What's one of the rules about sales is answering objections, addressing objections, and you keep bringing your lease in and saying, hey, we've got a leaky, it's leaking oil here. Can we get this fixed? And, you're the salesman and you're trying to keep this lease going. You keep handing it off to your mechanics and they can't fix the problem, i.e. Pam Bondi, at least so far. Are they going to keep leasing that car when the lease terms come to? Probably not. Mm-hmm. Probably not. So you're just giving, I think, people more and more objections to why they should vote for you if you're not actually handling the issue of the 2-tiered justice system, which is the overall.
Because it's part of the 2-tiered economy, part of the 2-tiered culture, part of the 2-tiered everything else. And these young men see this as a holistic Leviathan they want taken down.
And even if those young men don't really believe that it's coming for them, like the lawfare is coming for them, if they do not truly believe that this system is somewhat fair for everyone, that they actually have a fair shot, that has a chance to make them absolutely recalcitrant to anything, any engagement, any involvement.
Correct.
And again, I just want to underscore this point, that regardless of how feminized our society has become, regardless of how deep the tentacles of wokeism, progressivism, the spirit of the age has gotten into all of our institutions, the old magic is still there. these young men will end up being the primary movers and shakers and livers and dyers and taxpayers in our country. And if you have an entire generation of young men who are doing the living and dying and taxpaying, who just shrug that as much as anything. We talked about this the other day with COVID and the young generation, that this is the same generation that we're told, no, your rites of passage don't matter. You have to stay locked in your homes so that grandma and grandpas you don't know don't feel like they're going to die every time they step out on their stoop. If you then tell them you're not actually going to get justice, that is a civilizational sledgehammer, a wrecking ball to the foundations of civilization as much as anything else. So again, clock is ticking.
That, brother, was a tour de force answer right there, Aaron. Very quickly, I think about the interview we did with Brett Buchanan this week over at Signal, when President Trump's pollsters talking about right now negative impulses are driving people to the polls more than anything else. That's kind of what you were touching on, Todd. Yes, you can be angry if they don't deliver, but you're also then going to hand the power right back to the people. You know what they'll do to you if that happens, right? And I will be fascinated to see. We're going to need then. We're going to need new specters like Mamdani, right? Do young men care? Here, let's just do this. Do your damn jobs.
Of course.
Just do your job, Pam Bondi. So we're not having this conversation this time next year. Hey, does a communist getting openly elected mayor of Minneapolis and New York City, does that piss off enough young men in North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania that they'll vote for us despite the fact we didn't reboot the economy and they can't afford a house, they can't afford a car with the current interest rates, and we didn't arrest anybody? I don't know about you guys. I don't want to do that show this time next year. Can I get an amen on that, both Catholic and Protestant?
Amen.
Do any of us want to?
Amen.
You want to be editing those articles this time next year, Rob? Because I sure as hell don't want to be doing that show this time next year. Do you want to be editing those articles? No?
No.
Then here's my brilliant, bright idea. Do your jobs. Do your jobs so that we can then do ours. You do your jobs so we can do ours. Because I don't want to be sitting here making these stupid calculations. I don't want to be doing this a year from now. Do your jobs. Arrest somebody. Prosecute somebody. That brings us to the exit question. Who do you think is most likely to be arrested? Not whom you would most like to be arrested, but you think is most likely to be. Aaron.
My money's on John Brennan. I just think he looks like a squealer.
Rob.
Yeah, it's going to be Brennan or Clapper.
I was thinking one of those two names as well. Todd, what about you?
I'm not so sure if those guys are squealers. I think you want to know who the squealer is? Adam Schiff. That's a squealer.
You're right. That's a guy
Go get him.
That's a guy that wouldn't last one night in a federal pen, man.
I mean, I know he's got some sort of, isn't it some sort of like property tax or mortgage, something or another going on? Don't get him on tax evasion. Get him on this.
But maybe the tax evasion is what gets him to squeal on some of these other things that you're talking about too, right? Yeah. Yeah, I the Schiff, again, that's a good nuanced observation there by Todd again, because Schiff, the other guys are spooks. And I know they're old now, but at some point in time, they were probably some kind of badass, Brendan and Clapper, right? They made it through a basic, they could do a chin up, So Schiff is just a guy that, ran for Congress because he couldn't get first chair in the Geek Squad, he just reeks of beta. That's a guy that's not going to last one day, man, in the joint. So I could see Schiff being a very good call there. All right, when we come back, hat tip to my wife for this next topic, because she saw the firestorm, a woman that we genuinely like and has been on our show numerous times. In fact, Amy and I hung around at the TPUSA Faith event to go get our daughter Anastasia's a huge Lila Rose fan. So we hung around at her booth to get her a Lila Rose sweater. And then on the flight home, we were looking at this excrement storm that Lila Rose stirred up about men and sex. And my wife, as much as she loves her, completely disagreed with her take on this. And that is what prompted me to make this a topic. And we'll get to it. In fact, I'm even going to present the argument that my wife made as a counter to it. We'll discuss that next. Stay tuned. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. And if you are looking to do some grilling here this weekend, summer's winding down, but grilling season is still in high gear. Aaron, I know that you were raving about this Chef IQ.
Yeah, I got to get on this.
All right, man, I'm going to hand it off.
This is like the first time I tried heated seats in a car. I'm like, what's the big deal here? Why do you need heated seats? And then once you try them, what's your reaction?
Like, why didn't I have these all along?
Never going back.
Yeah.
I tried this, and it's like, well, you could get a different kind of Bluetooth meat thermometer probe. I tried these the first time, did a pork butt a couple of weekends ago. Never going back. They clean right up. That's one of the coolest things about them in the aftermath, but the actual use of them is so easy. It's so simple to keep track of the internal temp of your food, meat, predominantly. It's a really cool product.
Well, it's the Chef IQ Sense. You just heard Aaron's rave review. It's the wireless cooking thermometer that turns you in to a master chef. Aaron says he's never going back, so you should join in with him. All right, no more lifting, no more dining disasters. The Chef IQ Sense, it's a precision cooking tool for everyone. And just like you heard from Aaron, you're going to wonder how you ever did this without it. All right. So right now you get 15% off when you go to use the promo code Steve at chefiq.com. Chefiq.com. Use the promo code Steve to get 15% off. All right. The promo code Steve to get 15% off when you go to chefiq.com. Use that promo code Steve at chefiq.com. All right. Let's continue on with our weekly look at the week that was as we continue on with issue 3. Do men need sex?
Pro-life activist Lila Rose raised a bunch of eyebrows this week when she said this.
Can we all talk about Father Mike Schmitz? I showed him to a girlfriend who's not Catholic, and she's like, when's Mass?
What about the man needing sex? That's just a cultural narrative that basically says men are like animals and they have to be able to do this sexual thing. Otherwise, they're going to go crazy. And the reality is there's whole vocations that are celibate. And these are virile men, men's men. Some of the most masculine of men I know are priests. We need food. We need air to breathe. We don't need sex.
It's a gift
of coming together, and it's designed to bring life into the world.
I think the sexiest thing about a guy is like their self-control. And my husband has amazing self-control. So after baby number 4, when we started practicing NFP, it was like we couldn't do it sometimes when we wanted to. And that kind of made things a little steamier, like not gonna lie. It's hard on him too, don't get me wrong. People will say, well, do you just do other things for your husband?
All right, so I decided to use this for a topic, not because it created quite the crap storm online and a lot of engagement. If I'm not interested in that, I could give a rip, or I don't think it's anything constructive. But my wife and I actually discussed this quite a bit. And she disagrees pretty strongly on this, at least depending on the context in which we are applying it. So before we get to that, though, I want to hear what everybody else has to say. So, Todd, I'm going to start with you. Is Lila Rose correct about this?
Well, this was just a disaster of messaging.
Yeah.
And Lila should know better. Now, people are being way too hard on her specifically. The woman has done so much for the pro-life cause. She's
100%. Yes.
She's legitimate, and she's not.
I mean, she's really.
Just
let me interject really quick. We were just talking during the break about what our colleague Sarah Gonzalez just did to Jasmine Crockett at her event.
Yeah.
Lila is essentially the OG of this, right? Because she looks so young, particularly 10, 15 years ago when she was younger and unmarried, that she was the first person to really, the whole James O'Keefe and that whole method of exposing these people. She really broke the seal on this with the original phone calls and stuff she made to Planned Parenthood, right? And that does need to be noted here. So and that's also why I added the context about how much we admire her work even in my own family. Okay. So thank you for doing that, Todd. Now please continue.
But on the other hand, I don't know who that other person is, but just, again, a disaster of messaging. And because we are simultaneously talking about actual spiritual and theological principles and then real life applications. And she's talking like she's like a high school girl. It just wasn't helpful to having any kind of serious conversation. So that being said, if you want me in the strictest possible sense, when she says it's not oxygen, the Lord never had sex. He was fully man. He's also fully God. But so, yes, in the strictest possible sense, men do not need sex. But men clearly need it more than women do. And I'm not sure what the way of couching that is. It's obviously not in the strict sense, but
Well, you're kind of getting into what my wife disagreed with about this, but go ahead.
In terms of, if I may, in terms of a general maintenance, men clearly need it more.
Mm-hmm. Aaron.
So the great lie of the sexual revolution is that every urge is a need, and every need is therefore what? Healthy. That's not true. Not
Correct.
every urge is a need, but not every need is necessarily an urge. So what context were they talking about there? That was a 45-second clip. Now, there is some context given based on what they said, but I would like to hear this. I haven't had a chance to listen to it in its full context. What context are they talking about there? If they're talking about the marriage context, this is at best unwise messaging, and at worst, I guess, worst unwise, best sloppy messaging. In the context of marriage between man and a woman, it's also true that not every urge is a need. There are some times where you just cannot have sex together, even though one might have the urge to do so. But is sex needed for a healthy marriage? Yes. But I think the precise way of saying that is that the marriage needs that relationship. But it's also true that both men and women need that in the context of marriage. So I'm not quite sure. I think they were talking about maybe in the overarching context of the lie of the sexual revolution, which is you should act on every single urge that you have because urge means need, and need means healthy. That's the great lie of the sexual revolution. And boy, howdy, haven't we seen that play out over the last 60 years plus. But I just think this is really sloppy messaging.
Rob.
I didn't see anything wrong with this. This is the basic catechism of the Catholic Church. Right? That's what they were discussing. If you watch the full clip, they were discussing the basic Catholic catechism of the Catholic Church, which states that sex in marriage is for procreation. That is what the basic catechism of the Catholic Church says. When she was talking about when she was doing natural family planning and that there were times that they could not have sex, that's because they were not ready to have a child, and contraception is against the Catholic Church. And the only way to ensure that you don't have a child is to not have sex. It is against, not practiced by many Catholics, but it is against the catechism of the Catholic Church to pull out. That is against the catechism of the Catholic Church. The act of having sex is to procreate in a marriage. That is what the Catholic Church teaches. That is what they were discussing. They were discussing Catholic doctrine. So I'm confused by the uproar from this because they're both practicing Catholics and they were talking about what happens in a Catholic marriage. And I guess I did not see the uproar of this. I saw the Lila Rose, reel come across, and I saw a little bit more of it, and I didn't think that there was a huge controversy about this. It's
that's
the basic catechism of the Catholic Church.
That's the difference between the theology and the spiritual truths, and we would disagree on some level on this panel, but the higher level high church thinking, and then the high school girls locker room application, which is obviously going to get out on social media. They weren't wise as serpents at all. It wasn't just an audience of Catholic women there. This went out and went viral and was obviously taken out of context. I totally understand it why it was, because they were very, very sloppy in how they talked about it. I mean, she's talking about hot priests and things like that. This was bound and determined I think they were to be taken out of context.
All right, hold on a second, because we're going to run out of time. Go ahead, Rob. Take a minute. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that they were talking about their friends, and that their friends thought that the priests were hot, and couldn't understand how a priest could not have sex. I didn't take it as high school gossip. I took it as they were discussing something that happened in their life, and they used it to pivot to teach the catechism of the Catholic Church. I'm confused by the uproar, I guess.
Okay. Here's my wife's issue with this. She says to me, she goes, why don't you go online and why don't you produce a viral video? Women don't need affection in a marriage. Women don't need affection in a relationship. It's not a need. Women don't need, your wife doesn't need to be told she's beautiful. She doesn't need to be romanced. She doesn't need romance. She doesn't need affection. Why don't you go ahead and go do that?
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay. And she's like, she goes, listen, my office is filled with men and women all day long as a Christian counselor, all day long. And it's women saying, he won't romance me. And it's men saying that she won't give me the physical, affection that I need. And I'm just walking around with a loaded weapon all of the time. And it's the same back and forth all the time. And so my wife saw this just as a total double standard. All right. The idea that there's a catechism or a theology that says it's totally fine to deny your wife the emotional affirmation, the nurturing she needs, the words of affirmation she desires. And it's not required for a woman to get the affection, to get cuddling, to get physical touch other than sex. Those aren't needs. She's not going to die without it. So my wife is like, there'd be a total double standard, an absolute uproar if you did that. People would think your career is over for saying things like that. Every female listener and viewer you have would absolutely turn on you for saying things like that. So why doesn't it work both ways? That was my wife's take on it anyway.
And she's right, because there's no way it wasn't going to be take this way once it got onto the Gen Pop, because that's what people deal with in real life. And so we have this very high order theological thinking with this very base level inside the locker room thinking. And you have got, if you're going to bring those worlds together, you've got to understand the dynamic you're communicating within. This went viral for totally understandable reasons. And it doesn't mean anybody actually spoke in theological error necessarily, but you're talking to real people, not constructs. And it's obviously why people got bent out of shape over this, especially with the woman I've never seen before. She was ridiculous in her messaging.
Rob, I'm going to give you the last word since you're the contrarian here. I want to make sure that
that's not what she said. That's not what she said. What she said is that my husband, when we were practicing family planning, showed restraint. He had needs. He showed restraint. And I think that that's hot in our relationship, so that when the time comes that we can have sex, because sex is for procreation, it will be all that better. They didn't say that they don't have needs, right? They didn't say that. They said that they do have needs, but it's hot when it is controlled. I guess I am flabbergasted to see the controversy in this. I thought that it was a beautiful and a well thought out statement of the Catechism of the Catholic Church and what marriage is in the Catholic Church.
All right.
If it was, Steve's wife wouldn't have had the reaction that she was, because he's absolutely right about that double standard here. We have got to communicate to people, real life human beings. This is not just a check the box on either side, Catholic or Protestant. We just can't check those boxes and said, I said the right thing, it was orthodox. Real people need to get it into their hearts. And there's real Catholic men who are going to be hearing that, just as women would in reverse, like Steve and Amy said, who would just be like, yeah, in the real world, let me tell you how this goes. And that's why I blow off not only you on this issue, but all the other issues of import that matter in orthodoxy.
Let's get to the exit question. What can women actually live without that the culture says that they need? What can they live without the culture says they need, but they really don't need?
Equal pay? Yeah. The right? Am I supposed to say repeal the 19th to get myself canceled, Steve? But I don't know what you want me to say.
Well, we have a panel of 4 guys. 3 of us are married. All right. None of us are shrinking violets, as this entire conversation is dictated, and yet we are so even subconsciously worked over by feminism that when the question is asked, what can women live without that the culture says they need, we are flummoxed. I mean, I could see math, I could see formulas over all of our heads, I could see light bulbs flickering. Okay, I could see us trying to do this in real time.
The answer, it's just the reverse of what we said. Just like men, in the absolute sense, don't need sex. I talk about, I'm a father of 4 daughters. I talk like every emotion that you have does not need to be voiced, aired, or is in fact legitimate just because you have it. Quite the opposite is true.
All right, that's a good one. We'll just stick with that. Let's get to the kicker topic. If you had to take one, Would it be a vow of poverty or chastity? You make the call. Aaron.
Oh, man. Probably a vow, now that I'm married, a vow of poverty.
Okay. Todd?
Poverty.
Rob?
It's been a long time. I'm going to go with chastity.
I think, and hey, I mean, there were years where the only thing we had going in our marriage, frankly, was our physical relationship. So I have zero complaints where my wife is concerned. But we've also had our kids, and now we have grandkids, and the idea that being able, to provide for them and set them up for the future, I kind of feel like, as much as we still enjoy a healthy marital sex life, if I had to take one of these, I kind of feel like we should be thinking about the future and a legacy, and not taking a vow of poverty would be our own self-sacrifice on behalf of our own kids in the next generation. So I think I'd rather do that. The chastity one, I mean. All right, predictions. Rob, go. We got a minute and a half. Go.
Shedeur Sanders will start for an NFL team by the end of the season. Don't think it'll be the Cleveland Browns. Don't know if it'll be the Cleveland Browns, but he will start a game by the end of the season.
I mean, I could just see an NFL owner just needing to fill seats and doing it in January or December. I could see that. Todd, yep.
Trump will announce before the midterms that before his presidency is over, the Department of Education will be closed.
Okay, that'd be good. Aaron?
We will actually, before the end of Trump's term, see an actual reset of relations with Russia starting in the next few weeks.
That would be good as well. I believe your Red Sox have this ignominious record, Rob, from, I don't want to bring back one of your probably earliest childhood memories, the 78 Red Sox blowing the all-time record 14-game lead against the Yankees in the division, right?
I was at the Bucky Dent game.
Oh, you were? You were at the Bucky Bleeping Dent game.
Yeah,
okay.
we went to the Bucky Bleeping Dent game. I was at that game, yes.
I think,
when I was 5.
Man, maybe I'm doing an Aaron emotional hedge, but I think my Tigers are going to break your record. I think they're going to blow a 15.5 game lead. I mean, the Guardians' schedule down the stretch, man, it is just a lineup of nobodies and teams 500 or worse. It's over half their games. So I know like their entire bullpen is getting busted for sports betting right now. They don't need it against the teams they're going to be playing here the last month and a half of the season. So I think I think my Tigers are going to break your team's record.
Emotional hedge.
Yes. Saying things just preparing myself that if I speak it into existence about a team I love, it won't happen. An Aaron emotional hedge. Right.
That's called a Deace emotional hedge.
I was wondering if you were.
I learned it from you, old man.
Learned it from the best.
There you go. Rob, good to see you as always, brother. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. We'll come back, and we'll have more of you with Feedback Friday next. Stay tuned. And we're back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todders and an Aaron McIntyre. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Take advantage of that by emailing the program, steve@stevedeace.com, DEACE. Like us on Facebook, me, we, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also attempt, likely with futility, to subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube, at Deace Show on YouTube. Have we tried, Aaron, starting a YouTube? Didn't even wait for me. Have we tried calling it Deace Sucks on YouTube? Deace Sucks?
We have not.
Have we tried Deace Spreads Fake News? Fake News Deace. Have we tried at Fake News Deace on YouTube to see if maybe just openly condemning me might help our engagement numbers there, perhaps? So we could find a way to actually monetize the largest video platform on the in world history while doing a show on video. That would be nice. That'd be nice.
Wouldn't it be nice?
That'd be cool. Apple loves us though. So please hit. You'll be noted and counted there if you hit subscribe or follow on Apple iTunes. And it's subscribe everywhere else. Follow there. You can also, and thank you if you have, we appreciate all of you. You can also leave us a 5-star review. Tens of thousands of you have done that for us. We appreciate each and every one of those. And we'd appreciate it if you would add yours to that today as well. And we also appreciate our friends over at Patriot Mobile. They know that you have many choices when it comes to who to go to for mobile phone business. And there's new ones popping up every day. But when it comes to, the parallel economy and outstanding customer service, they're the OG. All right. And they're one of the only carriers out there with access to all 3 major U.S. networks. So that means once you're a member, you can change for free to any of those networks anytime you want. They also give you exceptional nationwide coverage, the ability to have multiple numbers on different networks even. So if you've got family members on the same plan all throughout the country and parts of the state where one network is better than the others, you can mix and match if you need to. All right. You can also keep your phone, upgrade your phone, keep your number, switch your number, unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, everything you're looking for. And if you use the promo code Steve, they give you a free month of service to get you started. And here's what you're also not looking to do. Fun people who hate you if you can avoid it. These people, they don't. They share the same value system that you do and reinvest your profits right back into your values as well. All right, so go to patriotmobile.com/Steve to make the switch today. patriotmobile.com/Steve to make the switch today and use the promo code Steve for a free month of service to get you started at patriotmobile.com/Steve. All right, are we ready for some Feedback Friday?
You bet.
Let's go.
All right, let's begin here with Sandy in Virginia. She writes, in just a few minutes, I'll be tuning into your program again, as I have for almost a year now. It's still great to hear such common sense about the culture and from a faith-based perspective. I'm not kidding when I say yours is my favorite go-to show for current news and all that goes with it. There is, however, a however. I can't get past the Lindsey Graham obsession. I'm not defending him in the least. That's not my point. My point is that it is not becoming to you or Christian talk, not in the way that you do it anyway. It sounds crude and vulgar. God does not approve of crude and vulgar. In Proverbs 8:13, he hates perverse speech. Ephesians 4:29 says, don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. And in 5:4, it says, nor should there be obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking. I have hesitated to recommend your programs to others because of it. And that's a shame. I even put my TV on mute when I know the topic is coming up, such as your Friday Deace Group. Look at it another way if you must. It's an old joke, and old jokes get boring. I'll bet Todd, Aaron, and Jill are getting tired of playing the issue. Let it go, Steve, whatever the reason. It's time to let it go. Past time. Now, blessing to all of you guys. Other than the good Lord and his word, you are my voice of reason in this crazy world. So that is from Sandy in Virginia. So I'm not going to play the game of the subjectivism of what is crude and vulgar other than what is obviously objectively the case by any reasonable standard, because I could pull all kinds of verses out of the Bible that would make lots of people's panties get into tighty whities and wads with the idea, well, if I thought that sounds so crude and vulgar, right? And even she says it sounds like. So we're in subjectivity. What is objective, though, is if you guys are sick of it, Todd and Aaron. So,
well, I'll just say this: I was sick of it until Sandy's note, and now I kind of jonesing for another Lindsey Graham joke.
Well, I also do know that. Forget about me. Jill Savage is not sick of it.
No,
so
in fact, Jill, I retired it, and Jill demanded I bring it back. In fact, yes, I had retired it for a while, and then, I mean, Jill threatened me, backed me into a corner, and forced me to, to succumb to her intimidating presence.
Yeah, I could take it or leave it. I'm not bothered by it. Listen, I just think you'd find something else. I mean, the way Steve does the 90-95% of the stuff you love and agree with is, quite frankly, I think if we'd be able to be pretty clear, and I think he already alluded to that he's being, he's getting in there and doing things expressly to make people feel uncomfortable, to make a point. He does that when he's being serious and neck deep in the Bible. He also does this, and we do that when we're joking too. So I don't think it's as that much of an aside as you make it sound. I guarantee you, Steve, you may disagree with that part, and that would be a more serious discussion, but I guarantee you when Steve is doing this on a regular basis, there is a part of it is just to entertain himself because he does like him. But I also guarantee you that he's trying to make a point on a regular basis.
Everything you said is true. Some of it is I'm just mildly entertained by me, but yes. But ultimately, it's to prove a point. So what is crude what is salacious? All right. So is this crude or salacious? Son of man, there were two women, the daughters of one mother. They played the whore in Egypt. They played the whore in their youth. There their breasts were pressed and their virgin bosoms handled. Ohala was the name of the elder, and I can never say this one. Oholiba, I think it's Oholiba. It's Oholiba, the name of her sister. They became mine, and they bore sons and daughters. As for their names, Ohala is Samaria, and Oholiba is Jerusalem. Ohala played the whore while she was mine, and she lusted after her lovers, the Assyrians, warriors, clothed in purple, governors and commanders, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding on horses. She bestowed her whoring upon them, the choicest men of Assyria, all of them, and she defiled herself with the idols of everyone after whom she lusted. She did not give up her whoring that she had begun in Egypt, for in her youth men had lain with her and handled her virgin bosoms, and poured out their whoring lust upon her. Therefore I delivered her into the hands of her lovers, into the hands of the Assyrians after whom she lusted. These uncovered her nakedness. They seized her sons and her daughters, and as for her, they killed her with the sword, and she became a byword among women when judgment had been executed on her. Her sister, Oholiba, saw this, and she became more corrupt than her sister in her lust and in her whoring, which was worse than that of her sister. She lusted after the Assyrians, governors and commanders, warriors clothed in full armor, horsemen riding on horses, horsemen, all of them desirable young men. And I saw that she was defiled. They both took the same way, but she carried her whoring even further. She saw men portrayed on the wall, the images of the Chaldeans portrayed in vermilion, wearing belts on their waist with glowing turbans on their heads, all of them having the appearance of officers, a likeness of Babylonians whose native land was Chaldea. When she saw them, she lusted after them. And the Babylonians came to her in her bed of love, and they defiled her with their whoring lust. And after she was defiled by them, she turned from them in disgust. When she carried on her whoring so openly and flaunted her nakedness, I turned in disgust from her, as I turned in disgust from her sister. Yet she increased her whoring, remembering the days of her youth, when she played the whore in the land of Egypt, and lusted after her lovers there, whose members were like those of donkeys, and whose ejaculate was like those of horses. Thus you long for the lewdness of your youth, when the Egyptians handled your bosoms and pressed your young breasts. Now, in most contexts, much of the language I just used would it not, gentlemen, be considered in most contexts to be, as a standalone, crude and perverse?
Yes.
Yes.
And you know what I think.
And in certain contexts, when this language is used, would it arise crude and perverse passions in the person to read it in different contexts? Yes.
Yeah.
Like for example, let's say this same language was used, but it began with these words: Dear Penthouse Forum, I never thought this could happen to me. And then it used this kind of language. It would produce a different reaction than if that exact same language is used with the word of the Lord came to me, and then this language is used. So it's the context here determines the language, is the point I'm making. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
So if you are compelled to crude and lewd things based on our Lindsey Graham blasts, leave your name and number. We will send the police, and we'll probably have to subpoena your hard drive. But everybody else understands the context here of what this actually means. You may not like the context. You may not agree with it. When it's your show, you can have your own context. And this isn't meant for everybody. We're not trying to reach everybody. That's a fallacy, and there'll be times you'll like us and times you won't. I really like the fact, when we hear you don't like it, you turn it off. I'm totally okay with that. But
no, we do. Listen, I always default. We don't have a rated PG faith. We have a rated R faith.
That was very rated R language that I just read, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
To her point, it can be related to our first hour and the discussion about Lila Rose. Right now we're doing a show that is going out to people who regularly watch and who subscribe, but we do have to be wise as serpents in that our messaging can go viral. And so therefore, ultimately, how are we respond to that? Steve is obviously prepared. He just did. If something like this went viral, this is exactly what he would say. It would be no different. But to her broadest possible point, yes.
Her broadest possible point is correct,
and Steve
Sandy.
Does that every
correct.
Friday. There's almost always one letter every Friday where he's reflecting on something he's said or done. That's important.
Yeah, Sandy's broader point is correct. All right. Here's the thing. Here's the 1-to-1 too. notice she said, well, there's a certain time of the day where I know you're going to do these Lindsey Graham blasts. And just like there are certain circumstances in the scriptures where this kind of language that I just cited is used, and there's other examples I could cite. That's just maybe the most graphic one in all of the Bible. But it's not the only instance, but they are exceptions. That part is true. Right? So, I mean, if we were sitting in here constantly making these references and blasts, then I also think you may have, hey, I think your ratio is a little inverted and upside down here. Right. But I could also make a case that me referencing last hour, guys going into my wife's office and not getting from their wives what they feel like they need the most, am I responsible then if one guy heard that and said, you know what, you're right, man, I'm not. And I heard that segment, you're right, my wife's not giving me what I want. Let me go ahead and just log on to Pornhub. Am I responsible for that? Did I incentivize that? I mean, I can't live with that all the time. It's an impossible standard. It just is. And ultimately, I just have to, ultimately, the name on the back of the shoulder here, the name on the back of the shoulder here, I'm responsible. I will face accountability for this. But to sit here and to try to do the calculus of what will not offend anybody, what will be a perfect model to everybody is impossible to do. So guess what? I don't even try. And then ultimately, I trust that if I'm wrong, the Lord will rebuke me. And there will be punishment for it. So, anything else on that?
Nope.
Okay. One thing I should add to this, though. When the Lord is using this language, it is not with the intent of being salacious, but graphically pointing out the disgust he has for the object that he is describing. This is why I made the point, if you are compelled to lewdness, lasciviousness, and crudeness based on the Lindsey Graham blast, that's on you. Because it's very clear that I'm disgusted with Lindsey Graham. I don't find him alluring in any way, shape, or form. We're the show that wouldn't show you the Sydney Sweeney ad last week because we thought it was, it was a gray area. We're the show that didn't put that on the air, remember? All right? So in this case, I'm modeling, he needs to be called out in the most graphic of terms. He's disgusting. He's vile. He's filthy. And just like the people of Israel could do a lot better, the people of South Carolina could do a lot better than that too. Let's go next to David. I do truly enjoy your show most days. You are an intelligent man and have many deep insights. The show is meaty and leads to a great deal of meditation. I continue to pray that you will one day be born again and be able to see, perceive, understand, and observe the kingdom of heaven. Thank you, David.
What?
You know what? I urge you to keep praying for that. So thank you. I urge you to keep praying for that. I didn't change the wording of that one iota. I didn't.
He didn't add any context?
Nope. That's all it said. Verbatim. I changed nothing. But I do appreciate that. If you're going to pray for me on one thing, pray for that, regardless of the context. That's a great thing to pray for. Brad Durkins in Messina, New York. Todd, you're going to like this one. If you care as much about church as you do about football, dump Gatorade on your pastor at the end of the next sermon. I love this. I love this. Pastor just dropped a banger. Like you're walking out. It's like it's 1762. And you're walking out of Jonathan Edwards Church, man. And he just dropped Sinners in the Hand of an Angry God on y'all. Just drop that right in your lap. Drop that bomb. And all the guys get together in their knickers. And as Edwards is just walking out. Right? And the Gatorade bath. I don't know. The visual of that just kind of cracked me up. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But I love this idea.
You took the ball of that question and ran in the exact opposite direction you were supposed to.
Oh, I was?
Well done.
Oh, yes. Yes. I don't know. I kind of like the unbridled enthusiasm. I kind of took it as, dude, show as much enthusiasm for the word of God as you do for, your football team winning the big game. I love this idea.
Aaron, was that a Dacian emotional hedge we just witnessed?
No, not this time. Not this time.
I could totally see Aaron.
That was just a Deace. That was just Deace.
I could see Aaron totally doing the pit bull head bob, right? And just grabbing those little communion cups that we pass out in a Protestant church where you peel the top off and it's got the little cracker and the bottom part you peel off and it has the juice. I could see Aaron, man, just grabbing those and just dumping those on the pastor afterwards. Banger. No?
Sounds sticky.
Yes. Yeah. By the way,
all I see is heresy.
The first thing, I can't believe CNN did not ask Douglas Wilson, do you still give minors real wine for communion? I can't believe that did not come up.
Have you listened to the extended version yet? I haven't.
I know there is one. I have not had a chance to listen to it yet. Aaron, I think you told me there was an extended version,
Yeah, I
right?
haven't had a chance to listen to it either.
Because they recorded the whole thing. Yeah, that's right. Because Aaron, you mentioned, I said, well, good, because I would have told them to do that. Like I record everything. Everything. When somebody has me on that I don't know or trust, I record it on my phone and keep it just in case. Justin writes, all right, now let's get to some more serious matters here. All right. In fact, let's maybe do that after we tell you about our friends at realestateagentsitrust.com, because in these unprecedented times,
bing, bing, bing,
and it's going to lead right into Justin's note, by the way, where we have struggled. I mean, we're kind of, it's spitting, it's kickstarting, it's flickering this real estate market here, which is more than the flatline death it's been since the fall of 2019. So a lot has changed in the real estate market, in the real estate business industry, since the last 6 years. That's why you want to definitely make sure you've got an agent that knows all the best practices, whose track record of success has been vetted and verified. That's why we wouldn't have listed him for you if we had not done that already. At realestateagentsitrust.com. The name says it all. Go there, whether you're trying to get across the country or just across town. Ultimately, you want to make sure you get across the finish line with the least amount of stress as possible. Find an agent that'll help you get there, the kind of agent that you'll be recommending to the people you care about for years and years to come. realestateagentsitrust.com. That's realestateagentsitrust.com. And that brings us to Justin's note. I work for UPS and make $125,000 a year driving a truck. My wife works part-time and makes $60,000 a year. We have three kids. We built a $200,000 home in 2012. We have a $1,400 mortgage. I used to be able to put $300 a week back in savings for years. I haven't been able to do that in over 3.5 years. My electric bill was $425 last month. The month before, it was $315. Groceries cost me $325 a week. I've cut every TV subscription, canceled fun activities, quit coaching my kids' sports just so I could pick up more overtime. We now live paycheck to paycheck, and I don't see any end in sight. We used to live a very comfortable life, nothing extravagant, but could afford to eat out whenever we wanted, stuff like that, but not anymore. I haven't been this broke in over 20 years, so yep, perp walks are fine and dandy, but something has to give. We cannot continue to the cost to live like this anymore. That is from Justin. What do you guys think of that?
I think it's important you know your Sean Connery in The Untouchables. What are you prepared to do? And even if you are, look around you. Just be honest about assessing the situation, boots on the ground. How many other are prepared to do that with you? Because that's the sad fact about it. People, we just watched. You could trans the kids. The weird dude in a dress could take your daughter's titles. You sat there and you clapped. You couldn't be bothered. Once again, I mean, we're going to have a guest on our show in Red State, Iowa in a couple weeks. A naturalized woman from the Dominican, I think, did it all the right way, came here to Iowa. She says she picked it because it was a red state, and she went to a school district to defend against the porn stuff. And they sent her cease and desist letters. Once again, what? I say moms of liberty all the time. Why not dads for liberty? Why is she having to be the one to stand on the wall? Because, brother, there's just all kinds of people who are not prepared to do a damn thing about what you're talking about. And until that changes, we're in trouble.
Yeah. It's just, at this point in time, are we making at a national level some serious, we think, progress, or at least blunting the blows of what we've experienced over the past 15, 20 years? I think so. But on the hand-to-hand combat level, I still remain very, very concerned. And it's just, when you go to the the economics and pointing out, grocery prices of everything going up as well. Everybody has experienced this. I've seen things online on X about prices are still kind of, it's not what they were 10 years ago. We had this conversation recently. I mean, how much longer can this actually continue on? And I think in my lifetime, unless in the next 10 to 15 years, if we don't turn around the inflation, the long-term inflation, I think we're going to find the answer to that question. So Todd is absolutely right to go where he did with that question, which is, what are you ready for? What are you prepared for?
I think, what did I say? Did I say a couple days ago, I was reading a study online that thought we were getting pretty close to making a household making $200K a year was going to be middle class, given the overall cost of living comprehensively across the board. But you see the frustration there. And what is the stock market going up? What does that mean to Justin and his family? Do you guys know? What does that mean to them? Squat. Because he also can't put as much money away in savings, which I would assume has to do with retirement as well. He can't put as much of that money away as he used to be able to. So he's not even benefiting in that respect to the full extent because he's got a cash flow. He's got to be liquid. He needs the cash. So this goes to everything I've been saying for the last week or so on this show about this. The same people that created the two-tiered justice system, created the two-tiered culture, the two-tiered education, also created a two-tiered economy. It's all the same people using all the same platforms, creating all the same rot gut in the culture. And someone has to be held accountable for this. And I think the odds that within the next year, we're going to be able to, I look at the greatest presidential economic turnaround since FDR, which was greatly aided by World War II, was Reagan's revolution. He got annihilated. He lost 40 House seats and six, and I think a net 6 governorships in the 82 midterms. So I think we need to prepare ourselves that we're going to fully feel like it's morning in America again this time next year is not likely, or at least that possibility is just not an automatic given. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this poll that Brett Buchanan put out yesterday. Again, one of President Trump's pollsters we had on the show earlier this week. It shows 81% list America's debt crisis as one of their top issues. That's the good news, right? That's the good news, right? Now hang with me, okay? 81% agree that it's a terrible issue. But Steve, I thought you told us that nobody cares and nobody votes on this. Well, I didn't get to the second part of the question. When asked what to do about it, you guys ready for this, Todd? Oh, Todd, you're going to love this. Is going to make your weekend. You're going to love this, okay? The most popular answer, 50% said, well, we just need to promote growth in the economy. We can grow our way out of this. No, we can't. In fact, one of the reasons why growth is sluggish is because the debt crisis is so out of control. It's stifling our growth ability. We're paying so much interest on so much debt that right away that money is taken right out of the economy, skimmed right off the top before it ever gets in and circulates. So, of course, the answer that, Todd, you'll love this, the answer which required the least amount of suffering was the most popular one.
Of course it was.
Now, what are the two biggest expenses we have? Entitlements, particularly Social Security and Medicare. Only 19%. 81% said, something must be done. When asked what to do, 19% said, address and reform Social Security and Medicare. 19%. Only 20% said to cut welfare programs. Only 18% said to increase taxes, which is not the issue. The government does not have a revenue problem. 36% said to cut government employees. Chances are, though, they're not one of those, nor are relying on that paycheck. even though they're fundamentally probably right about that. But again, notice the answers. Everyone agrees, 81%. We cannot sustain this. This is not sustainable. There's too much debt, leading to too much inflation, leading to interest rates being too high. But when asked what to do about it, what would be the things that would actually do something about it? The American people see the problem, but are not willing to suffer any consequences to fix it. Which is why I keep telling you, there's no voting constituency for this. This is not a message that will get you elected on a national basis anytime soon.
Yeah, you can't make this point enough. But look at how all of us on this show, some of the criticism we get the most, all three of us in different ways, some in the same way. And this is a show where you know what you're getting. I mean, these people they're coming here for us in a lot of ways, but then they'll turn and they'll complain to us, we're too hard on them. That's this audience. So to your point, Steve, the rest of the Gen Pop, they're prepared to sacrifice?
Right.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Right.
I just, if we don't make the choice to sacrifice, we will suffer at a level even greater.
Yeah, those choices will eventually be made for you. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, we're just looking at laws of economics, we're looking at metaphysical certainties here. We just cannot continue at the pace of deficits and debt that we are indefinitely. We just can't. We cannot.
And this is, again, you either have to shrink your costs or grow your revenues. So what you see Trump doing with tariffs and other things, he's trying to grow the amount of revenues coming in. Because if there's anything Trump understands, it's how to read a poll. And he knows there's no market for this. So then we're going to have to grow our revenues. Except those revenues, though, keep this in mind, are going to have to come from foreign countries. So now you're also at the point of how much can we lean on those foreign countries, guys, before we lean on them so hard that they can't afford it either, so they start pushing back. And they do things like, we're just going to shut down your antibiotic supply. I was talking to a new advertiser. I can't announce them yet. I had a call with them last night. And they're delayed. Their entire product is made in America, guys. But they're delayed in when they can release because every box company for boxed shipping, all of them are in China. There's none in America. And they're weeks behind with supply chain issues there. So this is the corner we have put ourselves in. Let the good times roll, baby. More in a moment. Hey, I've got two questions for you. Are you unknowingly funding the destruction of American values with your hard-earned investments you make? And then two, do you know if your hard-earned investment dollars are being used to weaponize against you and what you just voted for in the last election? If you think the answer to that or the previous question could possibly be yes, you cannot possibly go another day without contacting our friends over at Constitution Wealth because they can help you screen your investment portfolio for your values and to make sure you're not taking the gifts God gave you and then the productivity that you earn with those gifts and then having them go against you and your God. You can't have that happen, especially when you don't have to, right? You can be both profitable and prophetic with an investment firm made up of professionals who share your values. So take control of the future of America. One of your most potent weapons can be weaponizing your money against the spirit of the age. They can help you do that. Get started with a free consultation today at constitutionwealth.com/blaze. That's constitutionwealth.com/blaze. And remember that Constitution Wealth is a registered investment advisor. You should review their disclosures at constitutionwealth.com to understand their services and fees. All investing involves risk, including the risk of loss. I am a client of the firm, and this is a paid endorsement, but my opinions are my own. Let's get back to Feedback Friday. And as a follow-up to what we just had with Justin, There's this note from Josh Indall. And he says, I was working the Republican Party booth at my county fair here in Minnesota, and 2 teenage guys walked up and blew me away. It was like they were repeating what you've been saying for a while now about how unimpressed they are with the state of the country. The more outspoken of the 2 asked me my thoughts on Doge. I responded that I loved it and wish we could do the same with the state of Minnesota. He quickly responded that they aren't doing enough and our debt is out of control. What followed for the next 5 minutes was a back and forth straight from your show. He laments that not enough is being done to cut spending to help his generation, and I follow with, I understand, but there isn't an appetite to cut spending from the boomers, and they hold power for now. As a 44-year-old, I tried to help him understand how screwed my generation feels, so I cannot imagine how he must feel as well. Both of the teenagers seemed to get it, but also just came off disappointed at the lack of caring by the older generations to the mess that is being left to them. There was some hope from the conversation, though. They both expressed a desire to stay engaged in politics, both currently working at the local McDonald's after school, and both told me about stocks that they would like to invest in. Not your typical teens by any stretch, but they gave me some hope. Before they left, I guessed their ages to be 16 or 17. They responded 14. I told them both I was very impressed and to stick with it. As they walked away, they told me they were going over to the Democrat booth to ask them easy questions and laugh at their stupid responses. But you are so right, Steve, about your analysis about the young men coming up. They want real results. They're not afraid of demanding it. Thank you for your show. My best to you, Todd and Aaron. Again, that's from Josh Indall. All right, Aaron, let me start with you on this one for some reaction.
Well, first of all, I just want to restate that if you are in the older generations, and that counts for millennials, that counts for Gen X, certainly for boomers, if your reaction to hearing any laments of the struggles of young people is, here's how the world really works, or what you need to understand is, and it ends with, you're being selfish, you're being this and that. Maybe they are in a particular scenario. But if your pat answer is the entire younger generations are absolutely just self-absorbed and just need to pick themselves up by their bootstraps, we don't live in the world that we did in 1980 or 1970. We just don't. Secondly, absolutely, I see this. Again, this is an anecdotal example that confirms what I see anecdotally from the Zoomers. It's so different than my generation. I know a lot of millennials. Obviously, I am one. And I'm in the younger millennial category. I see older millennials as kind of being more Gen X than actual millennials. I mean, to a T, my generation is just, at least the younger part of my generation, for the most part, it's like two or three people trying out of 10. And the rest are either living self-absorbed lives or have no marketable skills. It's really terrible. What I've seen out of the Zoomer generation, and this is across the political spectrum, if they're not right-wing, they're still trying really hard. They're still hustling a ton. They're trying to get stuff done. They're trying to live productive lives. So if the church, and yes, I'm just going to cut to the quick here before we get to any political analysis. If the church does not seize this moment and really steps up to the plate to be a unifying force for these generations that are coming up, to catechize them, yes, but also unleash them. Unleash them with meekness, strength under control. You will see out of control strength in the next generation. You will. So I've seen what the listener or that the emailer has seen. And I think it just confirms what I have witnessed anecdotally from these up-and-coming generations. A great opportunity for the church, to be sure, but also a huge risk if you don't actually seize the opportunity given to you.
Todd, what do you think? Well said, Aaron.
Well, I love the hustle. It's all well and good to have the intellectual exercise, and the fact that they're having it at 13 or 14, incredibly impressive. But to just get into a battle of ideas that is not matched by the totality of the life that you live, faith without works is dead. What I like about these guys is they're not afraid of the hustle. They're working at McDonald's. Just starting there, dedicating yourself to something that you know you don't want to be your life's work, but you don't resent it because you simultaneously know I got to work my way up. That's how life works. I just have to learn to endure, to suffer a little bit. Yeah, by making the fries or whatever. That's all good. But remember, this is why I say being a man is not a leisure pursuit. This is a biblical notion. We just got done talking about that yesterday. If you have these ideas about how dysfunctional things are, yet within your own life, you continue to manifest the same level of dysfunction in that, even though you're not a reprobate now necessarily or anything like that, but you are just clearly part of the pattern of behavior that continues this, not rejects it. You're not, because guys like this, take over the trades, that kind of stuff, where you can literally, by taking them over as a man, you can provide for your family, and yes, you can hold your culture hostage in order to get better things. If you are willing to be a part of that, amen. If you're not, if you like winning the intellectual battle, but you will not, once again, here we are, you will not sacrifice, what are you prepared to do, Sean Connery? Then we're going to go nowhere. When you heard me, these guys, yeah, they're smart, but they're also working at McDonald's. That tells me a lot about how they understand what it means to be a true man.
Yes.
I must pay my dues. I must go down, and this is very spiritual, I must be in the trenches. Because seriously, if we are not willing to suffer, if we are not willing to look to the least of these, we're never going to understand loving our neighbor as we love ourselves. We'll continue just going to get ours, and we'll have all kinds of excuses for where we're right. We owe nobody anything. Everybody else is wrong. And welcome to the same problem.
Amen.
Even though you were right at 13, when you're 23, you'll be less right. And when you'll be 33, you'll just be part of the problem.
Amen. I mean, that's just beautifully said. I don't know if you guys have seen this that's gone viral since yesterday. A house for sale in Whittier, California. Have you guys seen this?
No.
So 8615 Calmosa Avenue in Whittier. That's a suburb of LA. All right. It's actually in Los Angeles County. It's a suburb of LA. Nice little home. Okay. Nothing special. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,400 square feet. It's a nice middle-class home. Built in 1950. All right. And when it was originally built in 1950, it sold for $8,000. Today, it is on sale for $1.1 million.
Pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
The mortgage payment estimate from Zillow is $66.89 a month. $66.89 a month. $66.89 a month. 1,400 square feet. 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. $66.89 a month. $1.1 million. Whittier, California.
So if you live in California or in a state like this and you think like this young man did, are you willing to go join Doug Wilson in Idaho, like I talked about? Because it's going to take that level of, California gold rush, it's dead here. I need to take a risk. I got to go somewhere else. That kind of level of thinking, just running in place is not going to cut it.
Jacob Pessia writes, as for you guys' concern with not getting arrested and calling it out now before it's really an issue, Machiavelli in The Prince puts it this way, paraphrasing, the state of the society is similar to an illness. When the illness is difficult to detect, the cure is simpler. Consider a mild fever or a slight cough, a sneeze here or there. Very difficult to detect that something is actually wrong. But if you address it right away, the fix is simple. Once everyone knows and can see the disease, it's too late. And it is now very difficult, if not impossible, to cure. As you guys are mentioning, I feel like we're already to the point where the disease had to get so bad that everyone notices it, but now the cure may be all the more difficult. What say you guys about what Jacob had to say?
Yes, whether it's a culture, an individual, an institution, a house. The sooner you diagnose what ails you, the better off you'll be. This is why Todd, rightfully so, and Todd's not the only one, we've all done this, characterizes progressivism, Marxism, spirit of the ageism, leftism, wokeism, whatever you want to call it, the spirit of the age as a cancer. The longer you go on trying to tell yourself that nothing is wrong, you don't get a checkup, or maybe you do get a checkup and you delay treatment, the further you live in denial, the more that cancer will metastasize until it's too late. All that's left is cancer. It has to be identified soon, cut out sooner.
We don't like to do that as a species, though.
Nope.
Yeah, and one of the correspondences that Jefferson and Adams had back and forth together at the end of their life when they had reconciled, and I don't remember which one asked the other, but one of them asked, has any nation, once it's lost its virtue, recovered it? And I think the reason that the answer to that question tends to be no is because we have a tendency to just, yeah, I know that's a problem, but we've got a gravy train right now, so we don't have to address it. And then when that gravy train isn't there anymore, and that problem becomes more acute, and is part of the reason why I said gravy train is not there anymore, where's the wherewithal or the ability to actually rein in it and do something about it, because it is acute now. It is metastasized. It is everywhere. And Todd, on a very fundamental level, I am very concerned about this young generation of men. And if we're not going to provide them a constructive platform via the political process to peaceably but aggressively confront these things that are now becoming patently obvious to everybody, that energy is not just going to go away. And if we don't have constructive vehicles to guide them, to channel it, where will it go? I am very concerned about that.
Yeah, I'm absolutely concerned. It's like Gandalf talking with Frodo. You can resent living in these times, but these are the times you have to live in. So they still have to do their part. They're men. If they want to be men, this is the challenge in front of them. And hopefully it's not in the actual war trenches, which many men have had to do. They're going to have to do their part, and they're going to have to think about the economy as it is, not the one they wish. And that means they aren't going to have as much leisure time as mommy and daddy, quite frankly, set them up for failure the way they raised them, thinking that they could have it be on cruise control. I mean, I absolutely understand their position, but if they want to be men, it's time to assess the battle as it is and go get it and win.
Folks, our friends over at Moxie Pest Services are celebrating their 25th anniversary. And how have they stuck around for so long? Because they know it's the little things that make all the difference, right? Hey, you gave the pest control guy the garage code so he can get into the house when you're not home. Did he close it back up, or has it been wide open all day? Hey, you told him to go through the back gate. It's unlocked just for you. But then he just left it open so everyone now knows that it's unlocked and could have done whatever they wanted in your backyard all day long. Or they didn't cover their shoes and just tracked it all over your house, right? Those things do matter. And customer service has become such a lost art in our day and age. They specialize in it over at Moxie, M-O-X-I-E for Moxie. Every day they check in with their techs to make sure, number one, they've got the best practices, the latest advancements to keep your home pest-free. But then number two, to make sure that they are doing the little things. They are practicing customer service, so they're not the pest. Doesn't do much good to get the pest out of the house, and then the pest guy becomes the pest, right? So get started today with your first pest control service for just $25 to celebrate their 25th anniversary. Just $25 for your first pest control service when you go to moxieservices.com/Steve. M-O-X-I-E, pardon me, M-O-X-I-E for moxieservices.com/Steve, and use the promo code Steve to get that special offer. $25 for their very first pest control at moxieservices.com/Steve using the promo code Steve. All right, gentlemen, 1 minute left. Final thoughts on today's show?
I actually have a little bit of Feedback Friday. Somebody tagged all of us in this X post. This is from Tanya, who says, it's clear that there are a lot of bad people involved with Michigan football. They called their operation the KGB. Connor Stallions was throwing phones and video into a pond. Absolute losers. Except it wasn't Tanya. That was Todd.
That was me.
I liked it better from Tanya. Yes. Todd, your final thoughts.
It's true, all of it. That was my worst of the week, so you beat me to it. I'll have to make up another one coming up here in the overtime.
Are you on VR?
VR?
I mean, Todd, because it looks like he's like panning the room. I feel like I'm doing a virtual reality thing with Todd, where I'm there with him. He's like panning the room.
That's what the OBSBot does.
Oh, it's because he's moving and the camera follows him.
Yeah, the camera follows him. And then he was making weird gestures with his hands during his first answer. And one of the gestures told the camera to zoom in really far.
Okay, I thought maybe we had started a new VR part of the show.
Nope.
All right, because it felt like we were like, when you're doing VR and it like pans around,
we'll get that set up for you next time you go. It just makes it
easier.
easier.
I'm great at sitting still. You know that.
Yeah,
that'll
so
work
you
great.
don't have to sit in the same exact spot every time.
You know, sitting still is, I'm really good at it. Everybody says that about me.
Well, that's what my final thought should just be what you did here, Aaron, in terms of the stuff. Steve, you are set. Great stuff.
Just
I mean,
knocked
it's so
his body
easy.
over.
Piece of cake.
All right. Looking forward to getting you back, Todd. Looking forward to the weekend. Hope you guys are looking forward to it as well and enjoy it. Until Monday, Romans 8:28.